What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates Wave 2 review, taking a look at the titular Alice from Alice in Wonderland. So we've got two Alice figures in this wave, and she happens to be among the two. Now, in typical fashion, Ultimates figure, we get the same style box we're used to. She is the only one in this wave that has an even remotely normal size package. Everybody else gets crazy, crazy big boxes. She still gets the slip cover, so you've got that sort of checkerboard patterning all over, foil embossed. I do love these. I really like the slip covers for these. I think they're probably my favorite just because of the foil aspect of them. But of course, pop that off, and you've got your figure there in the big window. You've got sort of a forest motif for her, of course, which makes a lot of sense. So you got all her accessories, the logo, and then the back of the box gives us a little shot of Alice, a bio, and then some of those signs that she sees when she's out there. So yeah, let's pull her out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Super 7 Ultimates Alice from, well, Alice in Wonderland. And this is a very, very different kind of figure from, well, the last one that we did, Hyacinth the Hippo. This is like the other end of the spectrum. She's huge. Alice is very small. She's not as small as Pinocchio or Mickey, but she still kind of falls into that same range, I think, where they're still kind of similar in terms of how they're put together. And as a result, she does kind of suffer a little bit when it comes to articulation. Like, there's really, honestly, there's a lot of stuff she just can't do, which I was kind of surprised about. So let's see what she can do, see how she moves around. Head is on a ball peg, but it really just swivels, and only slightly. I mean, you can understand why, I'm sure, because of the hair, and it's not a unique thing to this figure. Female figures with hair usually have this kind of problem. But she also has no tilt either, which of course makes it worse. So she can swivel slightly, but that's about it. Arms are out at the shoulder. They do rotate. There is surprisingly no bicep swivel on this figure, despite the fact that there is the perfect place for one right at the sleeve. We still have our single jointed elbows, and there is a slight rotation there, but honestly it's not a full rotation, so that bicep swivel would have been more useful. We've got hinges and rotation at the wrist, that's normal. She does have a diaphragm cut, but it's just a swivel. And this is her only swivel point on the actual body itself. She doesn't seem to have a waist twist, and honestly I'm not sure that if she did it would really work because of how much stuff is here. She's got the skirt, and basically a whole dress cinches around her waist, so it would really be problematic, I think, if she had a waist twist. But this is sufficient to get her to twist. It's just not very dynamic. Now we're going to pull this up. I mean, that's always weird. And we've got legs that go out about this far, and they kick forward pretty far as well. Kick backwards also. There is no thigh cut on this figure though. Just the ball at the hips. So you've got a little shimmy, but that's it. Knees are incredibly restricted due to the sculpt, because she's got, like, the bloomers on down there. So there's this frill on the knee that stops the actual knee from moving. She has that weird joint too where it's cut so far that you can make it kick forward in that very unnatural position. But backwards, it's almost non-existent, and there is a twist there. Ankles have hinges and rocker, but I'm really, really hesitant about these rockers because of the shape of the actual knee. I feel like the shape of, or the knee, the ankle, I feel like this shape right here, it flares out just slightly at the ends, is prohibiting the rocker to actually rock, and I'm worried it's going to, get stuck or snap almost. It feels really, really, really rigid to me. So I would just, maybe urge some caution. And she is a little unstable too, because of the shape of that ankle. I feel like there's a sweet spot to get her to stand, and it's not exactly hard to find it. But if you don't find it, she's probably just going to fall right over. So she has articulation, but honestly, I just don't see that there's a lot you're going to be able to do with it. Now, visually, I think she looks okay. I've got some serious gripes with the visuals on this figure, and it really comes down to one big thing, but overwhelmingly, I am still pretty happy with her. The big thing for this figure for me is just the soft goods. There's a lot. Like, there's a lot of soft goods here. The figure essentially, it's almost like a doll, really. I know there's like some negative connotations when I say that about an action figure, but it really feels like that. Not necessarily in a bad way. It's just like this figure is fully clothed, and it's not the most articulated, so it sort of feels more like a doll. She has the full-on dress. So you've got the white overlay, and it's cinched around her waist. There's a little strap back here, and you've got the skirt. It's got a Velcro piece, so you could take all this off if you really wanted to. And then you've got, you know, the big like frilly lace piece underneath. So there's like multiple layers of soft goods here. All of this, like there's just so much stuff here. And it does really work to make the dress sort of, you know, billowing out. Because her dress was always sort of poofy. And it works really well to actually sort of sell that. And then you can just sort of see some of that peeking through the bottom, which very much is in line with how this looks. It's not wired or anything. I'm not really sure that's necessary. I don't know that I'm missing that, but I was just pointing it out. It's not wired, but the colors look good, and the actual feel of the fabric is really nice. And honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of this figure in general, is the soft goods and just what they were able to do, because there's a lot of fabric here compared to what is really a very small figure. And of course, we'll do size comparisons. She is small, and she should be small. She's definitely, you know, she's a child, so she should be a little bit smaller than usual. You still got, you know, like the sculpt down here, so you've got the sort of bloomers and like the knickers or whatever this kind of stuff is. That's all just white cast plastic. You've got her black painted shoes. We've got the shirt is painted blue, and it matches the dress pretty well. I think the color match is pretty nice, so that shirt underneath of the white piece on top. And then we've got our skin tones, which of course aren't painted, and I really, really wish they were, because that's my big issue with this figure, is that the skin tones aren't painted. And while the arms I think look fine, the face definitely suffers a bit for me, because some of that sculpt ends up being a little bit lost, I think. And the paint for the eyes and the lips and everything is very, very crisp and clean and solid, but she also seems to have this like 1,000-yard stare, or I feel like there's some sort of almost a loss of expression in this face, and it might have been saved by a little bit more paint, because her face I think looks okay in certain angles, but if it would have been a little bit, you know, more shaded possibly, it might have looked a little better. And the same goes for her hair. It's just super, super glossy, and I wish it was a little bit more matte. I think it would have turned out a little bit nicer, because there's ultimately not a lot of paint on this figure, at least as far as details go. There's really none. You know, eyebrows, lips, eyes, and the bow on her hair, shoes, and that's really about it. And there's some on the torso, obviously, for that blue. But in terms of any fine, intricate detail, I feel like that's really a miss on this figure, and it really stops this face from being probably as accurate as it could be. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, let's start with some ultimates and just sort of keep it within the family here. So we've got, on one end of the spectrum, Hyacinth from her own wave, and then from Wave 1 Disney, we've got Pinocchio here. You can just see the cross-section of size. So Hyacinth is obviously huge, Pinocchio is really small, and Alice is going to sort of fall in between. And let's move Pinocchio aside. And here is Leo. So you can see that she's not too much shorter than him, but he's got a lot more bulk. And then let's do something else, something that's not Super 7. Here's a Black Series figure. Bo-Katan, you can see that she fits pretty decently alongside her. Of course, they're not exactly in scale. And then let's move Hyacinth aside. And here is a G.I. Joe Classified Series figure. So Destro, he's obviously a little bit bigger. And then let's do one last one that's just bigger in general. There is a Build-A-Figure, the Controller from Marvel Legends. So Alice is definitely small, and she should be. I'm fine with the size. I think she looks all right. She's bigger than Mickey. She's bigger than Pinocchio, but she's definitely smaller than a lot of the other stuff. And she's smaller than most 112 figures that you'd see from Hasbro. Now, as far as accessories goes, Alice has a pretty decent spread. It's not tons, but it's not nothing either. She's kind of got a middle-of-the-road piece count, I think, when it comes to Ultimates. And to start with, we do get a couple extra heads. I do like the heads that they've included, but I really wish that they would have changed the expression on one, because these two extra heads are so similar. So the standard one is just sort of, looking straight ahead, normal. And then you've got this one with her mouth open. She's a little bit more surprised. But then we've also got this one with her mouth open even more, and she's even more surprised. So I kind of wish that this was the one they included, and then they gave us one that was just sort of, I don't know, like a happy one or something a little bit different. I do think I prefer this one. I might figure out a way to use this as my permanent display head. And I feel like the skin tone on this one in particular does seem a little bit more opaque in some ways. It's not as shiny. somehow, and I don't really understand what's different about them, but it definitely has a different finish compared to the other two. She also, of course, gets a bunch of hands, and some of them are, well, one of them in particular anyway, is rather unique. So she's got sort of just style posy hands on her in the box. You get a set of open palm, slightly cupping style hands. And then you get a set of gripping hands. And then we get a singular hand with the cookie, or whatever it is, biscuit, that she eats to grow large once she's turned small. And of course that's just sculpted in there, so it's a part of it, so she don't have to worry about her holding that. We do get the little potion bottle. This thing's super tiny. Little potion bottle that she drinks to turn small, so you get the two things that change her size. I will say, this can be held in those gripping hands, but it is a tight fit, so just watch what you're doing. And then we get a couple little critters too, which I really like. So she gets little buddies here. We get maybe my favorite accessory in this whole set. We get the little glasses bird, which I think is really cool. So it's translucent, and then of course it's got the frames painted red and that pink nose and the eyes. I really like this. I mean, it's just goofy and stupid, but it's cool and a little bit different. It was kind of an unexpected thing. We get her cat Dinah, and this looks really good. It's just a little slug static figure, but the paint's nice on it. The sort of pinky hue that she's got is really nice. Sized really well too, of course, because Dinah was a pretty small cat. And then we get one final accessory that honestly, I'm really surprised this thing is included, because if anything, it much more demonstrates why I wish the skin tone on this figure was fully painted. Because we get a tiny Alice. This is just a static little figure, but it's fully painted, and it looks, honestly, it looks really, really good. And it highlights the fact that I wish the skin, the flesh on the figure was painted. So this is her after she's been made small. She's got a little base. She's got the box with the cookies in there, and then she's got the actual cookie in her hand, or biscuit, or whatever they called it. But the paint on this is really, really good. Very clean, very crisp. But again, as cool as it is, and I like it, and you know, you can certainly use it for, you know, setting a scene or a little display where you've got a tiny Alice. It highlights the fact that the flesh on the figure would have looked infinitely better had it also been painted. So yeah, overall, I feel like Alice definitely has some issues here. Most of them, for me, stem from the fact that she just doesn't move all that well. And I feel like she moves worse than even Pinocchio and Mickey do, despite them being so much smaller. She's just really locked into this kind of generic set of poses. She does look okay. I really can't stress enough how good the soft goods are here. They did a great job with that. They look tremendous. They feel great. They're sized really well. They fit her nicely. But ultimately, the face and the skin tone definitely leaves a little bit to be desired there. I do think that she comes with some solid accessories. I kind of wish they would have gone with a different expression for one of those heads, because they're just so similar, but I like the other heads included in the pack better than what we get on her by default. I love the inclusion of Dinah. I like the glasses bird. So there is some cool stuff in this box, and ultimately, if you're a big Alice fan, you're probably going to be excited about this one anyway, but she does have some hang-ups when it comes to just being an action figure. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Disney Wave 2 Alice. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.